All across Canada, patients and doctors are asking for change.
Doctors would know my name, not just my symptoms.
They would understand our culture.
We would be empowered to treat patients and teach students.
To leverage AI so we can improve our quality of care.
Through a bold new approach to medical education, the Toronto Metropolitan University School of Medicine is creating that change.
Attention hospital HR in Canada. Are you in search of the perfect insurance solution for your part-time and casual employees? Look no further. Meet Healthcare Providers Group Insurance Plan, your go-to option for ensuring the well-being of your team.
With healthcare providers, also known as HCP, you're not just providing insurance, you're providing peace of mind. HCP's comprehensive coverage includes medical, dental, and vision benefits designed to keep your part-time employees happy and healthy. There's even a package that includes life, long-term disability, and accidental death, disease, and dismemberment coverage for those who already have other group health and dental coverage.
It's time to bridge the gap between full-time and part-time staff benefits. With Healthcare Providers Group Insurance Plan, you can level the playing field and show your commitment to all of your team members.
Join the community of over 145 hospital sites who have made the smart choice. Visit healthcareproviders.ca today to discover how HCP can help you support your team in a meaningful way.
Is this thing on?
I think they can hear us a bit better now. Do you think they are ready to change the status quo?
It's one thing to get them listening, but now let's get them to act.
You are now about to witness the strength of nursing knowledge.
Welcome to the Gritty Nurse Podcast, an unfiltered discussion on health and healthcare. My name is Sarah Fung.
My name is Amie Archibald-Varley, and we are your hosts. Our Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail national best-selling book is available now. Get your copy of The Wisdom of Nurses today. You can get a book for purchase at any of your local retailers like Indigo or Chapters, or pick up your book online through Amazon or other types of retailers. It's also available in various different formats like audiobook and on Kindle. If you read it and you loved it, please leave us a review.
Please make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel where you can watch our podcast in video format. Like, share, and leave a review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or any other podcast platform, leave us a rating and review. Thank you to all our listeners and sponsors who continue to support us.
Your support makes our podcast possible, and we're grateful for the partnership and for you believing in our work here at the Gritty Nurse Podcast. Stay gritty. Hi, and welcome to the final episode of the Gritty Nurse Podcast for Season 5.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
We always do a little jingle song. But yeah, we wanted to, of course, every year we have our wrap-up episode, and we want to talk about kind of what we should expect to see in 2025. And I know some people are like, fast forward. We don't want to hear you talk about what everything's happened in 2024. It's not just going to be that. Of course, we're going to have conversations and we're going to talk about what we are looking forward to 2025, because I think it's going to be a big year.
Yeah. It's been a big year for us as well. So maybe we can start off by just sharing kind of what we did this year. If you're new to the podcast or you're not sure like what we did this year, I was going to start actually with just at the top of the year, Amie had a baby.
Duh. Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I had a baby. She's a blessing. I didn't expect to have a child in my 40s, but here I am. And she was born premature. She was born March 22nd, and she was actually due May 10th. So, I mean, healthy now, 8 months, and, just not sleeping, but still a healthy baby.
It's funny because my birthday is actually March the 20th. So I think March is like a really good time to be born, just biased. But, she didn't want to be May. She wanted to be March.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Aries it is. Even though I'm a Taurus, Aries it is.
And then on April the 2nd, our book came out.
Yeah. What a big feat.
That was
wild.
crazy. And I'm actually glad it was April 2nd and not April 1st because it's not a joke. Like it was actually.
Hey, but my other daughters born April 1st.
So but she's funny though.
Yeah, she's
funny. I didn't bring a book to hold up, but you guys obviously know we wrote a book called The Wisdom of Nurses. We went on this crazy media tour. Like we hit up all the big shows. We did national, we did local, we did, the social, we were on CBC. We got our hair and makeup done. It was fabulous. It was fabulous. Then I went on a cruise. I went on a nursing cruise, and I found out on that cruise that we hit the #1 spot on the Globe and Mail bestseller list.
Yes, Globe and Mail and Toronto Star.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a little bit of a blunder on Toronto Star because we were actually #1. They messed it up, but then they redacted and corrected it. But yeah, national bestsellers on the Globe and Mail list and Toronto Star for many weeks. So
yeah,
which was crazy. We just never expected it. And I think if anyone had asked me 5 years ago, would I be a national best-selling author? I'd be like, no, not me. So yeah, just some really cool achievements and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people now, honestly, it is a pastime of mine. I'll go into a bookstore and I'll find her book and I'll sign it. It's super fun. And then they take a little sticker and they'll put signed by author on it. And I actually find it's really funny to see people's reactions, right? Because people that work in bookstores, I don't think they're that used to authors coming in. So it ranges from like, oh my God, you're the author. Let's get a picture. Let's put it on Instagram and like the whole 9 yards. And they'll start like telling all their teammates. And then other people are like, did you bring a pen?
Yeah.
Like it's like they couldn't care less.
Did you bring a pen?
It's like, do you need a pen or do you need a marker? And I'm like, either one's fine. And then I'll just go into the corner and sign it. And then sometimes I'll go and sign a book and I see that you've already signed it.
Oh, really? That's wild.
Yeah. And then it's kind of cool because then both of our signatures are there. We got to Nursing Week in May, and that again was really a whirlwind kind of set of events because we did a whole bunch of speaking engagements. And it was really cool actually to talk to people who had read the book. Like it only came out the month before, but I think just there's nothing that replaces talking to people in person and hearing their stories and how they resonated with what we had to say. And nurses would come up to us and say, like, I was crying when I read the book because, we feel like finally someone understands us and someone's putting our stories out there that we've been trying to share for so long.
Yeah, it has been quite a journey. And I think that I still haven't really fully kind of understood what the impact our book has made because we get messages all the time. Right. And, it's just crazy. It's just crazy to see that, kind of from the inception of our podcast, our whole idea was to bring people together, to have conversations, to talk about healthcare and, the wins as well as the challenges through our book and hearing back from people. I feel like we've been able to do that. So not just through our podcast, but also through the book.
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. And are you okay if I go over some stats?
Do the stats.
Okay. So our Spotify account, it goes to this Spotify Wrapped, like end of the year kind of highlights of our podcast so far. We increased our listeners by 34%.
Yes.
Our downloads were up 35%.
Wow.
An increase 55% of new followers and 85% new listeners.
Damn.
That's a lot. That's good. Our listeners by age, it looks like the biggest group is 30 to 34 and then 35 to 44, which makes sense.
Like, yeah,
because that's our age range. 45 to 54. It's like there's listeners from all different age groups actually. So it's pretty cool. And I think that's really interesting. The other thing that I found out is that we were listened to in 29 different countries.
That's wild. I noticed that like through Chartable has sunsetted, which kind of sucks, but I noticed through like Chartable that we're charting in a variety of different countries, which I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of new. So I'm glad that we're getting more listeners internationally as well.
Yeah. And if you're listening from a country other than Canada or the US, let us know because we're really interested where people are tuning in from and what kinds of things you like to hear about because we always share our stories, right? One of the funny things that Spotify said is that we are in the storyteller category.
Well, we are storytellers.
I know, but I don't know how it knew that. Like it just knew. I guess with AI, it knows everything now.
Oh God.
And then for 691 listeners, we are the top podcast, which I I guess means
wild.
like every time we put out an episode, they listen to it first.
That's cool.
And for 412 people, we're the top 5.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's dope.
Any ideas what our top episode was for this year?
Oh my God, for this year. I don't know. Was it the one with the PM? I have no idea.
No, it was the one about what is the hardest nursing specialty. Move over ICU.
Sorry, ICU. It's just L&D and maternal child folks.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, that's the Spotify wrap up. I do think that like we have our own highlights as well, right? So we obviously did a podcast with the Prime Minister of Canada. We also did one with Jagmeet Singh, who is the leader of the NDP party. So I think, you know, we've had a wide variety of guests. And if you think back to 2019, when we first started this, if you had said to me, you're going to meet the Prime Minister in person and he's going to come on the podcast, I'd be like, no, definitely not.
Someone's listening.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that was our goal, right? I think at the end of the day, it's we talked about, you know, building that platform, having your own, you know, creating your own table, because sometimes you're invited to tables, but you're not necessarily given that power of being able to speak. And through our podcast, that's kind of the work that's been done. So having conversations with leaders across the world has been something that I never thought that I would be able to do. And I think that's an important place for nursing to be. So I'm glad that we're able to do some of that.
And I think we're getting close to our 200th episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 197 as of the last one.
Wow.
So almost 200 episodes in, which is crazy.
And knock on wood, the both of us have been on every single episode ever.
Wow.
There have been a few close calls where we didn't know if one of us could make it.
Oh, no.
And like, I remember a few times we had a guest come on and I think one of us was like delayed somewhere and we're like, do we record without you? But somehow it worked. It worked. And so almost 200 episodes in, we've been on every single episode together. I think there's a lot more to come. So stay tuned because we want to keep going and we want to show people that you can create your own platform and it's okay. And you don't have to ask permission from anyone to do that. I think that's something I just keep emphasizing a lot because I think as nurses, as women, as people of color, we often feel like no one's listening and we don't know if we can do this because we don't see a lot of people that look like us in this space. Right. So I think that's really important that we keep going and keep sharing the message that we want to share.
You know, I completely agree with you. And I think that, you know, so as much as we're sharing our achievements, we know that also this time of year is really difficult for folks too, right? Folks that might, you know, have lost a family member or, you know, maybe they've fallen on hard times. We want to recognize that as well as that it can be challenging during this time. And again, if you're alone, that hopefully maybe you listen to our episode and you don't feel so alone. And maybe you do connect with someone who you hadn't spoken to in a long time or whatnot. But again, just recognizing that as much as I think, again, lots of podcasts on their last episodes will be talking about all the great things that they've done, understanding that, you know, for some people, it might have been a shit year. And recognizing that, you know, we all go through our ups and downs and people are still feeling like they might be in a tough place and hoping that, you know, you get the support that you need, you find the resources that you need. And that, you know, we continue sharing those stories and bringing those stories to the forefront too.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, the holidays can be triggering in a lot of different ways. Like you go on Instagram and you see people with all those matching, like the matching pajamas and the perfect houses that are in magazines. And honestly, that's not real life. Like that is just a curated version of that.
Right.
So you don't have to do all the things. Like, I think it's challenging too, right? Like maybe there's certain loved ones that you're not in touch with anymore, or you have really rocky relationships with, and the holidays kind of makes you feel like you have to do all the things because it's the holidays.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself and realize that there are other people that are going through what you're going through too. And that's okay that your holidays don't look the same as everyone else's.
Don't have to. And I mean, I think, like you're right. Scrolling on people's feeds, seeing the best of the best, knowing that that's what people put on social media. So again, I think that at the end of the day, you should find what your personal best is and do what is right for you and for who you are as an individual, and knowing that a lot of it's fake. So
Attention hospital employees and retirees in Canada. Picture this, a benefit plan designed for casual and part-time hospital employees and retirees who aren't covered by their hospital's group health plan. Introducing Healthcare Providers Group Insurance Plan. a friendly partner dedicated to your health and well-being.
With affordable plan premiums and an exceptional support team, Healthcare Providers, also known as HCP, is dedicated to helping you every step of the way. Enrolling is easy, and you'll have access to a wide range of health and basic dental benefits from day one.
Already have health and dental coverage through another group plan? HCP still has your back. For less than $32 a month, the Signature Package, which includes life, long-term disability, accidental death, disease, and dismemberment, provides valuable income protection and peace of mind for the unexpected.
So take charge of your healthcare and financial security today. Visit healthcareproviders.ca to learn more.
Let's talk about what was a highlight for you for 2025. Hard questions.
A highlight for
Highlights,
me
yes.
for the year to come.
No, sorry.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I'm there.
2024?
I'm already there. I'm already in 2025.
Okay.
For 2024.
A highlight. Like, I know this is really not.
It could be healthcare, non-healthcare, does not matter.
Yeah, like actually last week, someone approached me that I know from our community, and she actually said you and Amie, I didn't even tell you this. She said you and Amie actually re-inspired me to stay in nursing.
Oh my God.
And she said, I've been feeling so crappy about my career. I wanted to quit. And I started listening to the podcast, and you guys talked about the different things you can do with nursing. And she found her way out of the place she was working, and she's way happier now, and she has a better schedule, better work environment. And she's like, yeah, I just wanted you to know that. And it's funny because sometimes people are afraid to approach me. I'm sure sometimes you get this too. And I'm like, I'm a person, you can talk to me. Like, I'm so glad that you shared that, because it is hard sometimes to go, like, we've been doing this for 5 years. Sometimes it is hard to like think about, oh, I got to record again, or like, what do we talk about? And to get that feedback, to know that someone like changed their life literally because of our podcast, it kind of,
wild. Yeah.
That's why I like doing these things. And it's not like a big grand thing, I guess, that happened, but it's just something that makes me want to keep doing this, because I know that people are listening, even if they don't always share that feedback with us.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful, and I'm glad that person was able to reach out and stay inspired to be in this profession. Again, as much as we talk about the challenges, there's a lot of great things to the profession of nursing, and again, I'm glad that through our podcast we were able to make that difference. So, yay!
Yeah, and just like I just feel like we just keep pushing the envelope of what nursing can do, and like a lot of people are looking to us, whether they know us from before or whether they just met us. I think we're really just changing the way that people view nursing. And that's kind of what my hope was with the book and with doing all of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you kind of, you captured that in that story. And I think that when I think about like the moment for me, that was kind of like that aha moment. We talked about it on this episode previously, was when I met that lady in Jamaica, and then hearing back from her it was like kind of like, oh shit moment, where you're kind of like, wow, I am making a difference. And it's sometimes, as nurses or healthcare providers out there, you feel like, you go in every single day, you're taking care of patients, you're making sure that you're finding diagnosis, if you're a social worker or if you're a PT, OT, whatever profession, we're all in these kind of like helping, caring types of professions. And sometimes it feels really thankless. And to know that people really do appreciate what we do at the end of the day is really rewarding. So yeah.
And for me, it's been good to travel to different parts of the country and hear from nurses in different provinces, what their challenges are and what is going well, because I think that as far away as we are from everyone geographically, we actually have a lot in common. And even with nurses in other countries, there is a lot that we have in common. And I just really want us moving forward, like in 2025, to continue to be more united versus divided, because I feel like, we are each other's biggest strength, but we can also be our own biggest enemies.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think I agree with that. And I think that, there are things that I've been seeing even on social media again, as people are continuing to try to divide us, whether it's through various different faith groups, or whether it's through, political correctness or policy or just whether you're right or left or this and that. And I think that at the end of the day, like, we should be able to fundamentally agree that healthcare is a right. Everyone deserves to receive healthcare. That nursing as a profession, we need to be a little bit more outspoken and kind of step out of the box. Like, I think these are uncontroversial things, but again, we are seeing this kind of like, silent. Like, for example, I recently saw a post by this person. I think his name is like Jamil something. He's like JD Vance's friend or something. And he's talking about like, oh, in health, there's an attack on healthcare professionals that are Christian. And, there's these Catholic hospitals and they're forcing people to do this stuff. I'm like, come on. Like, we got into this profession because we're trying to care for folks. Those things aren't top of mind, but bringing them, and trying to make them these conflicting things, it's just like, this is not reality. So I think at the end of the day, like, you could have your faith and you could still work in the hospital and not have these conflicting views. And the thing is, we have to have greater conversations that, when people are coming out and really trying to separate us, it's like calling out, like, that's not how things actually are. So
yeah, I didn't realize that healthcare was faith-based. Like, everybody needs healthcare regardless of what religion you have, or even if you don't have a religion, you're still entitled to the same level of healthcare. Right. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I've worked in a Jewish hospital. I've worked in a Catholic hospital. I didn't feel that divide, but I do think that in this day and age, it's unfortunately, I just feel like we're getting more divided, and that's a problem.
It's definitely a problem. And I think that, for example, I had a conversation on polarization with the Walrus, and I think that we need to have more conversations about issues that we might be polarized on, but how do we come together, and how do we find solutions together? Because at the end of the day, we still all have to coexist together, right? So we got to figure this stuff out. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more solution focused forms of conversations and dialogues across the board, because we can't just be at each other's throats. And I think that there's a greater conversation that needs to be had. And I don't want to get into it today. Of course, we've probably seen it. I think everyone's seen it, particularly in the United States, where their healthcare system is very, very different than ours. They have, insurance companies where you can have different levels, essentially, of healthcare. And of course, in recent news, a CEO was killed. And there's a greater conversation we need to have about, like, why did this happen? Why are people, I don't want to say celebrating him, but why are people not as empathetic? Why are people feeling, the way they are? And I think there's a huge conversation that healthcare in general needs to have with, how do we ensure that people are getting the care they deserve? Because they're not. And that's a problem.
And maybe that can be an episode for next year, because I think there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, definitely.
There's the insurance piece. There's the denial piece. People were denied healthcare insurance. There's a piece about why our CEO is being paid this much to begin with, because I think there was
there's no trickle down. It's like rich, and everyone's just
right. And I think I saw an infographic that particular CEO was getting 10 million. But if you look at the other CEO's salaries of other companies, he was actually getting paid way less than them.
Yeah.
So why are people getting 10 million, 20 million? Why is
50 million?
15 million? Why is that even happening? Yeah. Right. And then meanwhile, people are being denied life-saving surgeries.
Yep. And treatment. Anesthesia, medications. Yep. I mean, the stories are we're just infiltrated with stories. And I think, again, definitely a next year episode, but again, questions that we need to ask ourselves for 2025. Like, someone, I called out Ben Mulrooney. Anyhow, he had mentioned, where's people's moral compass? It's like, we should be talking about a lot of things when it comes to morality, and we're not. Particularly healthcare is stayed away from talking about Palestine and Gaza and conflicts and talking about anti-Semitism, just shied away from it. And that's not what we should be doing. If we're going to have a conversation, we need to be a part of the conversation as healthcare workers. And we can't just be like, okay, that's a separate issue. We can't talk about that. We need to talk about everything. It's coming 2025.
Everything is connected to healthcare, honestly. We just did an episode about climate change in healthcare. We talk about politics in healthcare. It's all connected to us, right? And I think that we need to be more comfortable to share these stories. And like you said, we haven't been in these spaces. So we need to sort of edge our way in And also, when we're given an opportunity, we need to take it.
Yes.
Just because a nurse hasn't talked about this before doesn't mean we shouldn't. Actually, I think it means we should.
100%. And I think that, how about I pose this question to you? What are you most looking forward to in 2025?
That's a good question. I think just continuing to use our platform to share stories and advocate for things that matter, but not just within healthcare, but outside of healthcare. And I think not just within the borders of Canada, but beyond, right? I think that we're so needed in these different spaces. And I don't think we should limit ourselves based on geography or where we think we need to be.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to potentially, even challenging ourselves on the podcast and having some conversations with maybe even more people that we don't necessarily agree with. So, I mean, I've mentioned it several times, Mr. Polyev. Feel free to reach out to the Green Nurse podcast, because I think we need to have these different ideas and ask people those really tough questions and, hear from various different viewpoints and counter them if we don't agree. And I think at the end of the day it's all about the conversation. So I'm looking forward to having more conversations and talking to different people who have different opinions than maybe ourselves, and really, strengthening the way that we have conversations with folks. And, again, maybe calling out some bad actors.
And if you had a really hard year, it is totally okay to not have any big goals as well.
Right.
I just want to acknowledge that if your
goal setting,
if your accomplishment for this year was getting to the end of this year, that is okay too.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is totally okay.
Yeah. Any other things that you're looking forward to for 2025?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it, but I don't know if I should say, but like, we want to have another book.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to happen yet,
great.
but we've been brainstorming ideas about other things we want to talk about. So nothing's obviously set in stone, but we do want to have another book and just continue that advocacy work and letting people know what it is nurses do, and that there are other nurses that should be recognized other than good old Flo.
100%. Yeah, no, I think that, if we were to continue to stay the same and we want more of the same, I think that that's not a great place. Being stagnant is not a good place. And I think that there always should be evolution. I'm looking forward to, evolving myself and, continuing to ask myself questions about where I want to be and what space I want to take up in. And I think that, as long as we continue to move forward and evolve and, continue to have these conversations, maybe through another book, talking about these things would be a great opportunity. Again, I'm always of the mindset of like, how can we continue to diversify where we are in terms of the work that we're doing in terms of advocacy. And again, like I told you, I'm poking my finger into other things, trying to learn a little bit about film, and maybe, who knows, maybe like a documentary can be done or something. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
So we have some really good episodes lined up for next year. We already recorded one. I'm not going to share who the guest is, but I think honestly, it was like probably one of the top 5 episodes we've ever recorded. We have some new guests, some old guests coming. So stay tuned, and always let us know if you have something you want us to talk about that we haven't talked about before.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm going to put this out there. There are some people that are worried about 2025, and I want people to be optimistic and try to say, you know what, maybe this is not the outcome we wanted, but how are we going to strengthen it and make things better? And I think that, you can't feel defeated. And 2025, I'm going into it strong. I'm going into it looking, being very hopeful and seeing what page I can turn in healthcare, because I think that's part of the work that we're supposed to do. And I'm looking forward to doing it.
So for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Happy holidays and have a great new year.
Yes. Thank you for listening to the Green Nurse podcast. Thank you all of our listeners from Canada and internationally. And yes, like Sarah said, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy. Stay tuned for next year, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Gritty Nurse podcast. If you have any suggestions or want to hear a specific topic, email us at grittynurses@gmail.com. That's grittynurses@gmail.com.
We are also speakers and authors available for engagements related to advocacy, nursing, mental health, and health policy. Please connect with us.
We want to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to our incredible sponsors. Their generous support has been instrumental in making our podcast a reality.
Thanks to their belief in our mission, we're able to bring you engaging content and connect with our amazing community. We're truly grateful for your partnership. Thank you.